All right, good morning. How is everybody out there today? I got you a little bit of different screen on there. It does look like I am coming through on the feed, I believe. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Please let me know if you can hear me in the chat box, because I'm running this screen on the background here and not 100% sure that I have everything set up, because I got things all torn apart around here. So let me know if you can or can't hear me. You'll let me know here real quick. All right. So just give me a heads up on there. I know it's about a 20-second delay. And so while I'm loud and clear, great, excellent, excellent. So I've been running around at the last minute. There's always something, some crisis. And so I'm going to take a little paper towel here, y'all, and I'm going to wipe the sweat off my brow real quick, just so I'm more comfortable. All right, welcome to Monday Methods. I'm Bradley McCalister. We're working from the in-process remodel Spidercraft Film Studio. It is coming along. Got tied up on a few other projects this last week. Didn't get as much done in here as I wanted to, but a lot of things are happening, out of sight and out of here that you can't see. It's pretty cool. I'm super happy. The control room is back there, working great. So today, what was today's electronic challenge? Because there's always an electronic challenge. Well, it turns out, and I was out here late last night working, and I plugged everything that needed to be charged in. Batteries, iPad for the camera remotes, and for some reason the iPad didn't charge overnight. I'm not sure if my charger's died, if it's a dead outlet on the strip over there. So I've got it charging now, and hopefully here before too terribly long we'll get enough power in it that I can use that. So what I will have to do is run back and forth a little bit to change the cameras, and I apologize for that. Life throws you the curves and you just make the best with them. Okay, so that out of the way. Right now we're on the front camera. You see on the back screen a little web page that has helped me a ton. What are we working on today? Well, we're doing a triangular piece, right? And I am not a math person, and I'm definitely not a geometry person. I think I had a little bit of it in high school. I'm not so sure. This stuff isn't real hard, and so I put a link in the chat column there to this particular page. I think it's called Math is Fun, and I tried to blow it up on the screen as big as I could. Now I'm standing in the way at the moment, and I'm going to go back into the control rooms. I don't have a computer control out here yet, and show you a couple of different options. But so I wanted to turn a triangle for this, and the piece is only 1 inch and like 5/8 thick, right? And it is a isosceles triangle, meaning that two sides are equal and one side is shorter. All right. Now, equilibrium, I think that's the name. I'll have to go look. Like I say, I'm not super great on geometry. I just have fun with creative things. If all sides are equal on a triangle, the center is quite easy to find. In this particular case for this project, because I wanted it, and I really wanted it a lot longer and narrower than it is, but there's a couple of considerations. And the biggest thing, and that's why I have this particular graphic up, and I'm going to try and learn to use my screen. What I've got on the screen here is an example of how to find the center of all three. Well, I can use my screen. All 3 points. I'm not the perfect weatherman yet. The center of the points. Okay? Now, why is that important? It's important in this case because on our points, here we go. I'll learn to be weatherman one of these days. I haven't practiced this at all. Because I want to make our points be legs, I needed the circumference center, right? Which is not the center of the piece of wood. There's a whole lot of different centers in triangles, I found out reading through this website. And so we need, for this case, to have the center of all the outermost points, which means when we have a piece, like say a bowl section in the center, let me reach over here a little bit further. when we have if we put a little bowl section in the center of this, it will not be in the center. Now, we could have found the center of that and had a perfectly round center that would line up on and make a perfect center touching all sides or very close. But that wasn't my choice because I wanted legs. Now, if I didn't want legs on this, I would have gone for the center of mass, which is even different. And I'm going to walk in there in a second, and I'm going to scroll these pages where I can actually read them and talk to you. The center of mass, if I had chosen the center of mass on this piece, it would be much more in balance. Regardless of what its shape is, it would be more in balance because it would have the true balanced center. So the center I've chosen is not the balanced center, all right? But it's the center to give me 3 legs that should is the question, get turned all at the same time. So that they're, when we turn the curve in the back side or the bottom, we will be taken away equally. Now, you might also notice that the corners are slightly rounded over. Because of the size of the piece and the angles, this is an 18-inch lathe, and my longest angles were 9 1/4 inches, 9 3/8. So I had to go ahead and cut some of the corners off just a little teeny bit. So that's all good. I have found the center. It is marked. And I'm going to show you how I drew that out in a minute. But let me go in here and disappear and come over here to the screen that I can actually see and try and not lose my voice. So this center, there's the circumcenter, if you will, as you see the mouse, and hopefully you can see the mouse fine. That, as like I said, makes us the center of all of our points. And we find that by finding the center of each side, each respective side of our triangle, and then drawing a right angle off of that, and where those points intersect, that is the center of the circumference. Now, the centroid is the actual midpoint from the opposite sides, and it's the center of the mass. So if we had done a centroid like this one, our center would be in a slightly different spot, but our piece would be more in balance on the lathe. But then we wouldn't get equal turning on our corners. All right? So like I say, I'm hoping this little graph helps out. I just threw this page up here, and there's all kinds of different centers. As you can see, triangle centers. And let me scroll down here for you. The end center splits all the angles. And what's kind of cool about this thing, if you want to play with it, you can drag these around and play with your different triangles. So if you want to, come up with weird shapes, you can find the center, and this will help you on any type of triangle you're working with. Isn't the internet a pretty cool place? There's a lot of different things, and all of these are interactive like this. And again, the link for this is in the comment column. Okay? So lots of fun things that we can do with a triangle. Now we're going to go back to our regular screen there, and back to life is normal. I hope it looks normal. And I'll come back around. Yep, everything looks good from here. So hopefully that was helpful. I do not have a monitor of the live feed out like on Facebook. I kind of ran out of time. I didn't run out of room. I've got one more monitor to put up, but I didn't get that put up. But I might put it up. I may change this when I'm back in there in a minute. But what I'll do is I want to go inside and change over to the camera and give you an overhead shot of how I found the center point on this piece. Now, also, you might see me looking around because the monitors are in a different place and the camera's in a different place. So if you see me looking up, it's because there's one up above and one below and one way below. Okay. Good morning, Frank. Let's see. And my dad's here. Mike's here. Rich is in here. Hope everybody's having a good day off. Let me go to the overhead for you. I'm going to send, I apologize for having to go manually. There we go. That should be what you're seeing. Okay. So Rich, being the engineer, Rich, you should be laughing at me when it comes to mathematics stuff. But hey, you know, it's not my gig. But I worked it out. Because this piece was cut on a bandsaw and it wasn't cut just all perfect and everything, I just, you know, and I still had the sharp the corners on here. And I found the center of each side with my framing square, back from my construction days, and I marked my center. And then I did the right angle off of each center, okay, and I drew all my lines. And that gave me my point. And to be super accurate, I used the jumbo Sharpie, okay, to make sure I got it right. Nice, perfect lines. So there's my center, and I've actually already mounted it up once. You can see there. So this is going to be a lot of fun. And my plan is to make it quite thin, have a little bowl, possibly section in the center, have a nice little arc to it. Okay. Sorry that I'm going to have to walk back and forth until this charges up. So I'm going to, like I say, it's not very thick, right? And you can see, if I get this the right way for you, it's already got a natural curve to it. And I was thinking about this while I was doing some other work. I think I'm going to approach this in a way that I haven't done before. I don't think. And I'm going to have a tenon on each side of this. Initially, I'm going to make 2 tenons so that I can flip it back and forth instead of having just one, just because of the way I want to play with trying to make the little footed ends, if you will. Okay? And I think I'm going to go in and change the upper screen to the Facebook feed. I don't need to see that other feed, so bear with me for just a minute, and I'm going to run in here and change the feed so that I can kind of see the Facebook column. It will make me, it's something that I'm used to having, and now I'm not seeing it. So let me get this up to speed for myself. Okay. And I'll be watching myself in a delay, but at least I can see if anything's going super wonky crazy, and I can see what you're seeing. And I see that I've left that mouse up here. Let me get that out of the way. Usually hides, there it is, that hides over there. Okay, I'm going to run through, and actually I'm going to jump in here real quick and scroll through the Facebook column. And Art's in here. Good morning, Art. And Mike McEwen. Good morning. And Rich is in. Mike and my dad. Okay, cool beans. So now I can at least see what you guys are seeing, so that when something crashes horribly, it'll be all good. All right. Of course, it's kind of strange watching yourself in a 30-second or 20-second delay, but I can handle that. So what I've done is in my chuck, I have put in a Sorby step drive. I don't know why I'm losing my voice again. So I've got Sorby step drive already mounted in here. I had it all set up before, and then I took it down so you could see the screen behind me a little bit better. I'm really excited about that screen. You know, that's been one of my things for years to get set up. And I see that other folks are doing it now as well. And that's pretty cool. I think everybody should use all the technology that they can get their hands on. I've been having fun. I was out here last night trying to get the more lighting figured out and getting rid of the green spots and the shadows and getting the good chroma key going and all that good stuff. I do have fun out here. Dummy, I was going to show you how I did this. So I need to go back in and change that to overhead camera. I'm seriously missing my switcher. Oh no, I did that already, dummy. I don't know. Don't mind me. I haven't had enough coffee today. I only had my regular 2 cups. See what happens when anything breaks and it just throws your whole morning off. So anyway, I've already lined this up on my step drive, centered it up. And hopefully everything works out just like it should. And Mom's here. Good morning, Mom. So, as I said, this piece is not in the center mass, so it's not perfectly balanced. It gives us some vibration. I'll give you at a slow speed. And I'm pretty sure that tick is because the one corner is just barely touching the bed. Okay? So at about 400 RPMs, I get a little shake. Okay? And we'll get rid of that tick real soon. So this is pretty much like turning a propeller. But at about 750 right there, things aren't shaking too bad. Okay? Now I'll give you an idea of what this looks like from the end. And since I have to walk over here to do it, there you can see the end. So it's pretty interesting how, you can see all the way through the piece as it's going around. Now you can also see what would be, if we wanted to try and make a bowl section to this, this would be our center of the piece, in this area in here. Okay, and then all that out there is, of course, the wings. And from the overhead, and I may adjust that overhead shot. There's what it looks like running in the overhead. So we'll stop that noise for a second. And I want to pull this overhead camera out just a fuzz. That's all the way out. Okay, so I guess that's all we're going to get out of the overhead today. All right. So I am going to stay with the overhead camera. And we're going to take these corners off. We're just going to clean this, get rid of that little tick. First off, tools today. I'll be using everything in the arsenal. Carter & Son tools. The Carter & Son high-speed steel tools, the Easy Wood tools, a little bit of whatever I've got, anything and everything. Okay. Now, for the first cut on the corner is going to be my favorite tool for that, as you guys may or may not know. That's the Easy Wood Tools #1 hollower. So CI5 small cutter. Very, very light, and it's going to take a very small cut right across the tips here, okay? I don't have it's just between centers, and I don't want to put so much force on it that on the spur drive or the step drive that I spin the drive and start to drill a hole in this guy. So that's the tool we're using, #1 hollower. And again, I'm not changing camera super fast because it's a lot of walking. I mean, I'd get my steps in, but that's not really what I'm here for today. So we're going to get this just out of the way and find the magic point where the banjo is happy. So that's our longest end. Remember, this is an isosceles triangle, so 2 sides are equal, but they're longer than the third side, the base. The base is the smallest side. And we'll try and make sure that we're at the center axis of the machine there, and we are. Okay. Now I am going to incorporate the natural curve in this piece. So this will end up being the bottom, what's on the right-hand side right now, on the tailstock side, and this will be the top. I'm not necessarily going to try and make them flat ever. I'm actually going to just utilize this curve. This is Sycamore. I forgot to tell you that it is Sycamore. So I wanted to make sure that you knew that. All right. Let's get on our face mask. And hopefully here in a little bit we'll have charge up in the the iPad and we'll be able to change cameras like we're supposed to. Get my controls going. Make sure everything is locked down nice and secure. Nice and snug. Don't want any mishaps. Double check the chuck because I was talking. Because this is a piece. I've made these tea lights, but they were a lot smaller. I mean, I've made tea lights and they were only, you know, about that big. They were like so, and you put a little tea light candle in the middle. This is a whole lot more wood swinging around out here. All right. Let's give her a whir. Go back up to about 750. I'm just going to ease in on this corner out here. And that's just a very light cut, not even touching, because one is longer than the other. You can see where we are cutting there. Okay. All right. So I'm happy with that. So now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to actually start to carve, and I'm going to go change cameras to the end camera. And this is Ambrosia Sycamore. You can see the Ambrosia beetle trail right there. And there's some spalting in this as well. And I'm going to get this set up pretty close to the piece of wood. All right, and I'm going to go change you over to the end camera. I will get my steps in, I can tell, on this today. Okay, and again, for the first light, easy cuts just coming into this, I'm going to go ahead and stay with the number one hollower. I want to make sure that focus is right. I had set the focus earlier, and I moved things around. Make sure that looks pretty easy, pretty sharp. Because at 60 frames a second with this guy spinning, it's a little hard sometimes to tell. It almost always focuses on the motor housing back here. And that always annoys me to no end. And you can't leave it on automatic. It looks a little out of focus, so let me fix that real quick. I'll be glad when I don't have to walk back and forth here. I'll go back to the overhead. And I will fix this focus here if I can indeed, very quickly. Get us in the right spot. And pay no attention to this ruler being held up here. There, that looks a little better. I believe that's a little better. I do believe. Anybody got any kind of questions at all? Fire away in the comment column there. If you've got any kind of question. Because I'm planning to have a lot of fun, and I hope you enjoy this. And mostly I hope you learn some good stuff. All right, let's try this again. Up to about 750. And basically in the natural curve that it has, and there is some run out in this that I can see now looking at the top. But we're going to go ahead and start working our way in here. So this is referred to as cutting air. You know, you're cutting wood and air and wood and air. And that's right to the end of my tool rest. So we'll take a quick stop and see. So we can see that this was our highest point, where my thumb is here now. And then what I want to do is get this uniform shape here. So I'll get rid of all the wax and all that. And hopefully it's be a pretty piece of sycamore. Mike says, what did I think of the race yesterday? Well, considering Chase kind of ran away with it out front, I thought it was quite good. I started to actually call my dad, I know my dad's in here, so I said, how about that for a finish, Dad? The kid's good. That's all I can say about that. And I was eating boiled peanuts. So life didn't get much better. Fresh boiled peanuts. Now, if I want to, I can also, I'm just using that Easy Wood tool because it's the most convenient. There's no reason not to use say a bowl gouge. Now, I'm going to use, this would be their Carter & Son 1/2 inch. So, no reason you can't use bowl gouges as well. Mark Thompson, chasing the ghost. Mark, elaborate, please. I'm curious. The reference. I'm just out of pure curiosity. All right. Tool height's a little high, but I'm not going to change it because I'm already running. And just come in very gently. And remember, I'm making a 2 3/8 inch tenon, so you know I'm letting this build up out here. Let's take a look at that. So this is a beautiful piece of wood. All right, now we've got a little bit more to go still on these two corners, okay? And I can see the natural arc that is starting to form here. And if you're wondering why was I talking about making 2 tenons, it's because I would like to be able to work with the piece in a. I'm going to lower this tool rest just a tick while I got the chance. I want to be able to work from the center out without the tailstock in the way, and that's the reason for having the 2 tenon concept here today. Make sure that I'm somewhere in the vicinity of the tenon I want. Yep, so I'm still a little big, that's fine. So I'm all good there. Let's take another look and see if we've gotten to all 3 of our corners yet. And we have, so we're now, all 3 corners are equal. All right. And I'm looking at the overhead profile. And I want to jump around. Before I do anything else, I'm going to actually move. So I'm going to change the camera to the overhead. I'm going to move over to the other side and get it uniform in its arc so that I have a uniform thickness here. All right. Oh, it's what I call the cut in Aaron wood. That's what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking you were referring to, Mark. But I wasn't sure if it had a reference to NASCAR. That's why I was looking for clarification there. All right. So let me go change the camera for you while my controller charges, unfortunately. So as you can see, if you look here, this is maybe an inch. And so this is how much things are still different. This is an inch and a, inch and a 1/16 right there. And out here, it's an inch and a half. Okay? So I want to get this uniform thickness. I've cleaned up this side to where it's uniform on the center axis. Now I want to get this side uniform. Then my piece will spin easier, smoother, be more in balance, and I'll know just how much wood I have to work with. Okay, so that's kind of the first steps that I like to do. I like to get things cleaned up, unified, if you will, so that everything is all in the same plane. Even if it's in a curve, I want the piece to be in a uniform thickness. Now, since I'm not very good left-handed with the bowl gouge, I'm going to switch back to the carbide tool because it will let me work easily in an offhand position, and especially initially going into here. And hopefully you'll be able to see how the cut's going on. Always turn it by hand before we start. And come out and find the very outside corner. And I do not have camera for one of these days. I will. That would be the left-hand shot of this. And you can actually, you can watch the ghost image disappear on the outside edge. Now I know you can't see back here, but that cut 2/3 of it is just this one section here is the lowest section, so I'm going to cut down to that. And I will go ahead and switch over to the bowl gouge now that I know that I don't have any big giant chunks and work offhanded. So I'm actually coming in left-handed. Just ease in here, pick up the cut. And I don't want to take much away from this top right up in here. I want to leave as much of that as I can. Now the reality is the faster I spin this piece, the easier these cuts are to make. But I don't want to get crazy and have this piece fly apart. And one thing is there is a split right here that I just now see, and there's another one right there. That's one of the reasons for not if I turn this thing up to 2000, it would cut super easy. But but I'm not going to. And because I see those splits now, I'm going to switch back to my carbide tool, and I'm going to move my tool rest in a little bit closer here. I might put a little, not that I'm a fan, I might put a little sea egg in there to help hold those, to strengthen those up. We have a new epoxy coming out. It's not 5-minute, but it's a 2-part 1-to-1 epoxy, neutral or colored. It would be great for filling those kind of cracks once we're at a point that it was good to do that. So I've turned it up to about 900 now. I've picked up the speed a little bit more. Okay, now I can start to see, and you should be able to as well, the curve developing. We're thicker in the middle. That always happens with this kind of work. Now the carbide tool is tearing out the grain here a little bit more, but when we get this turned around, and I'm going to leave that just like it is. Okay. So I want to go ahead and make my tenon on the back side, on the bottom here, so that I can turn this around and put a tenon on the top and clean up the top so that I can flip-flop back and forth. So let's go back to the end camera. And actually, I'll give you a front view here for a second, and just kind of so you can see what it's looking like, and I'll spin it by hand. So you can see against like my red jacket. You can see, so I've overcut a little bit as far as the angle goes, but that's all right. I'm not worried about that. But that gives you an idea of how we're starting to build the curve. And that's why these 3 points, and another thing about making a 3-point piece is that they will never wobble. A 4-point bowl or a 4-legged bowl, if you have one off, they'll wobble. 3, they'll always sit flat. They'll always sit nice. Okay. So back to the end camera. Slide this guy in through here. And so the tenon I want to make is 2 3/8 to fit the Easy Wood jaws. And I'm going to start to work with a square style cutter. I think this is the one that I said I had worn the corners off of. No, this one still looks... Yeah, I'm going to turn this one real quick. This is the one... the roughers, I run the roughers pretty long time. And this one, this top left corner is actually kind of rounded over. So I'm just going to turn that real quick like that. I'm going to turn it one more time. It's not like I don't have more. I don't change the square ones very often. The round ones I change all the time. I like a nice fresh cut because I'm making the finish cuts with the round ones. The square ones, not so much. Hitting it one more time. There we go. Get our tool rest up to the right height. In the center axis there. There we go. Now I can't completely come in here the right angle, but I can start. I want to find my actual diameter that I want. And I'm not too far off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this corner. I'm going to make that mark. And so there's my tenon right on that mark. Okay. Now I can't really come sideways either, so I'm going to go to my other favorite method for making tenons, which is with a 1/4 inch bowl gouge, right? That's because of the curve that I have on here. I have the wing tops ground flat. And we'll clean this up. And I'll clean that up some more with the detail tool, a carbide detail tool. So I'll take away a little more material here. I'm going to make these tenons a little on the short side. Well, I think I can make it bigger because I don't have a lot of wood to work with. Okay. Then I'll take a detail tool. And I got tools in 2 different places these days because I haven't ever got everything. You know, I've got the new toolbox in here, or not, that's not new, but my road toolbox, the big 9 drawer, but it's not been organized yet, so we can't use it yet. So there's my dovetail that I need. Okay, and I can actually, if I'm careful, I can come in here with the side of this detail tool and make that shoulder, clean that up because that detail tool is flat. Okay, do have to be careful with it though. And I'm going to come in here, and I'm using this offhanded, so I need to be careful and get right up inside the live center there and make sure that that is slightly concave. Okay, I need a longer tool for that. Something that'll reach across there. Okay, so I see just a little teeny bit of daylight right there, so I know that that's good. Okay, so we can now put this guy into a chuck, which does make me a little more comfortable. Not that I think I'm going to completely lose it from between centers. And let me go change the camera around here while we're changing things around. Let's see how our pad is doing while I'm at it. And it's up to 13%. We'll let it go a little bit longer. All right. So we got the beauty of a wormhole in here. Beautiful sycamore stripe. Let me see if depending on how the light looks. It looks different on one set of monitors here for me than the other. Beautiful sycamore stripe. Nice grain in this piece of sycamore. There's our backside, or our top side, excuse me. So this is the Sorby step drive. These are, of course, in the Spiracraft store. You can get these from us. We carry a lot of the different Sorby products. Spring-loaded, they work great. And this is the Easy Chuck. You guys all know about the Easy Chuck. We've got those. Everything that I use out here, Spiracraft carries. In case anybody's in need of anything, we'll put in a plug for the store there. Okay, and that works out great. Yes, I like the way that turns. Okay, so you can see the curve. And so obviously this will have to get cleaned up, manually after the fact. But this will turn, now we can clean this up real nice. And we will put a little bowl section in here. So that's why, God, I wish I missed my thingy. I'll make a little tenon here so I can turn around and work on the bottom as well. But let's clean up this top and let's find our arcs, because I can actually work on both arcs just from one side. I just can't get as clean a cut as I want. And this wood is dry. I think it's this piece of sycamore, this sycamore tree, the infamous 6,000 pounds of sycamore I bought for the woodworking shows. It's going on about 4 years I've had this stuff now. And I'm slowly working through it. Can't quite get to that one. Okay. So we're going to take the tailstock away. I'll bring it back, but right now I want to get this cleaned up and get this top face looking nice. Okay. So I will take you back to the end camera. And I'm amazed that on that iPad there's not a way with the conversion from USB to have it be charging and connected. It's very strange. At least I couldn't figure out how to get it there. Actually, I'm going to try something here now that it's got a little more life in it. Hang on, bear with me. I'm going to see if we can't cheat the system here. We'll see what happens. Let's see if it'll keep running or use up to 13%. I see the lightning bolt, so I think it just was so dead that I didn't have control. So now I have control. I should have control and be changing for all our different shots. There we go. Okay, life is good. All right, so back to the end. And it's my 1/4 inch. Just take my 3/8. I'm going to drop that tool rest down a little bit. Now I want to start to clean this up. Get my control over here. Alrighty. So Rich, have you finished that vase from a long time ago with the eucalyptus? Is that all done? I don't know if you're in earshot, Rich. I know you're supposed to be at work. I came across my eucalyptus pieces in the bag yesterday when I was putting this place back together here a little bit. So I'll take her up to about 900. Okay, that looks fairly in focus for us. That's a bad place for those. Maybe down here. Trying to keep myself out of the picture. And that's where it gets bouncy on us. So really there's a hump, and I'm just going to start to work this out. I'll clean this up. I'm not worried about these tool marks just yet. Change tools here real quick. It's probably vibrating the whole building. Okay, so that's looking pretty good thickness. I'm actually pretty pleased with that. I wish I was getting a little smoother transition all the way across this piece. He's beautiful grain. Like I said, tool marks bother me, but the grain is beautiful. That split, there's that split. And that guy, it needs, I hate to do this, but I'm going to put a little adhesive in there, okay? So let me come up here to the front. And I'm going to glue that up a little bit. Not taking it out of the chuck, just taking the chuck off the lathe. Yeah, Art, there's a lot of things we can do with the bowl section of this when we get to that. And turning the wings, I haven't done one of these in a long time, and that's kind of, I'm rusty. That's one of the hardest things, is to get these nice and smooth on the cut, and that's why you want to have it really, really humming along. And now, of course, my question for myself is, where did I hide the CA glue that I had out just a little while ago? Because I was fixing some lights with it last night. And I'm pretty sure all I have handy is medium, or thin, but I'll live. I don't want to, because this place gets turned upside down every week when I take it apart to work on the framing and everything else in here. Again, beautiful piece of wood, beautiful piece of wood. And since I'm going to turn this more, I'm not going to worry about the fact that I'm going to stain, so this is going to stain this. There was a second one I saw somewhere. This is thin, so I'm just going to hit it a couple of times. So Art, did you get a new cutter for your carbide tool yet? Otherwise, you're down, or you got it somewhere else. But I hope you're back up and turning after you broke that one. You really did break it pretty good. Like I say, I'm just letting that soak in. And then I'll hit some accelerator to it. I love this ambrosia streak that's running right through here. Looking at the light there, it doesn't look too bad. Looking at, oh, I see, you get to see the wood chips in my forehead because I'm leaning in on the camera there. Hopefully this will take care of that issue a little bit. Again, I'm not a super big fan of CA glue for really gluing things together. It's not my first choice. But I will use it. Good morning, Lorianne. Delta wasn't an issue for us at all. My folks got some rain out of it, Mom and Dad there. We were fine. I was hoping it would rain. It was supposed to rain Saturday and Sunday, and I had made arrangements in my work schedule not to have to be outside, and then it ended up not raining. So, go figure. Okay, what camera are we on? We are on the end camera. No, we're on the overhead. Let's go back to the end. And it's actually easier to clean this up going from the outside in, and then try and make one last cut if you can to clean it up clean up your any tear out you get from going uphill. But let's get in here and make our tenon for when we turn this around. Okay. Let's make our tenon, which will be in the middle of our bowl. So we can actually make a pretty good size bowl in this piece as well. So let's lay out a few parameters here, if you will. Now, as usual, you guys know me, those that follow me, I don't always have, no, not always, I almost never have a complete plan in my head for these projects, which is just, I like to work that way. That way I don't feel like I've locked myself into anything. So right up it in there. So we'll kind of lay out where our tenon's going to be, and then we'll lay out where our bowl's going to be, and then we'll work from there. Okay? So got our controls back over here. Got all the things we need. The joy of poor weather forecasters, absolutely. Again, we'll keep this sane for right now, about 800 RPMs. Now just make a light cut. Come back and check it. That's a little small, Bradley. That one looks just about right. Okay. So there's our tenon, and we'll take that little 1/4-inch bowl gouge again, and we'll come in here and we'll take some of this out. We'll clean this face off. Make sure it's slightly concave. We still got plenty of material here. You know, it's a funny thing, and everybody turns differently. So this isn't really a big piece, but I love turning big pieces, but I also like using really small tools. In the Easy Wood tools, you'll notice I almost always am using the mid-size tools. I've got the fulls and I've got the pro size and all, but just for me, the most comfortable is the mid-size. That's what I like the best. That works, it feels the most comfortable for me to hold on to all day long. Yes, Mark, I just get into the project and see where it takes me. You know, it's all about having fun and enjoying yourself. Now I do want a little flat edge. I'm going to make a flat shoulder for my tenon in here. And I don't need that big a one, so let me use, do I have a, that's radius. So I could use a smaller, I could have used the micro and had a little bit smaller shoulder, but that's all right. And I'm also checking that my tenon's not too long, and I'm fine right there. And I got just a little ridge right there now, so I'll come in here and take that little teeny ridge away. Okay. Now I want to leave as much mass in here as I can to help support the wings out here. But I still kind of want to determine what this bowl, let's say we're going to put a bowl shape in this guy, when it's all said and done. And again, this one is only one thing I should explain. When I decided to make a triangle piece, and I was studying about the triangles and the equal-sided triangles and the isosceles triangle, so I knew that making the isosceles like this where two legs are the same and one's shorter would be out of balance. I didn't want to, on my first one, and especially doing it live, I've always made them with equal sides. I didn't want to have something that was really out of proportion, that might look really cool, but might be really crazy hard to turn. So it was only an inch different between the base, which was 16, and the sides that were 17s. Okay, so it wasn't way out of whack. So it's close to being an equilibrium triangle, but it's not quite. And that was intentional. I do want to do this more. I started to cut it down this morning. I was thinking about it, and I was like, maybe I'm going to cut this thing down and really have it be sharp and pointed. I really want to do one of those, but I decided first time out of the gate, let's keep it within the safe normal realm range and not craziness, because there's a lot more propensity to, this is a fairly fragile piece, especially as it gets thin. This stuff, you could break this pretty easy, and there's not that much structure to it. So I didn't want to blow up this first one, but start out on any kind of project. If you're really trying to kind of push a new envelope for yourself, start out just a little bit out of your comfort zone and then until you get comfortable, and then slowly work further and further out to more difficult levels of what you're doing, and you'll always stay just out, maybe outside of your comfort zone. You can always drop back to where you were comfortable and everything was working good. So don't take the giant leap, even though I have done it sometimes. I don't always practice what I preach. Don't take giant leaps. Move ahead in nice steady increments, going further and further along. Okay. All right, what am I up to here? I'm establishing how big do I want to make this bowl. Well, I'm not going to get into some kind of big philosophical debate about the ratios and the proportions of the bowl to the piece. I just kind of let my eye tell me what. And I'm thinking this line area right in here might be a nice balance between the space of the outside and the inside of the bowl. Just a general idea. So that's what I'm going to use. And I'm going to make a little bit of a cut there. And we're not committed yet to anything. So right in here, and I'm just going to use this just to kind of look at it and think about it. So thinking that's, and which camera? I'm still on the front camera. Sorry, guys. I haven't meant to change yet. I'll do that again. I didn't like that cut anyway. I got a little snooker corner in that gouge. Where's the other one I sharpened up? I think right here. Oh, I meant to tell you, and I forgot. I have to buy a new grinder, or at least a new arbor for my grinder. When I had this place torn apart, when I moved it next door, I must have dropped it or banged it, and I bent the arbor. So when I turned it on this morning, the arbor on my grinder with my CBN wheels is not true anymore. So again, what ratio, what proportion of open space to flat space here do we have? Do we want to have? And do we want to leave? I'm sure there's somebody who's got a magic formula. My eyes tells me that I actually want to make that a little bit bigger, just a little bit bigger. And I'm just going to take a little bit more off of it. I know I can't put it back, but I'm thinking maybe, and whatever I take here is doubles the size. But we're not committed to that yet because we didn't take very much. Okay? All right? And we could do all kinds of things with this. We could put a bead here. We could do lots of different things. So I'm thinking that's what I'm going to leave it at right there. Okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to work in the wrong direction. And I'm going to work uphill from the outer point up to this line that I've got here. All right, now I won't get the greatest cut in the world, and I know that, but I'll come back and clean it up. And I'm just not getting great cuts today anyway, for whatever reason. Maybe I'm rusty on doing these. That's a lot of air. I'm cutting a whole lot more air than I am wood. Okay. And on that note, I'm going to reach over here and make sure this thing is nice and tight on here, because I don't want it coming off. Okay. All right. And I'm going to drop this tool rest down a little tick. So this tenon is ready for when we want to turn around and clean up the back side. The top side is what we're going to see the most. So let's see what happens in the from the vibration standpoint here. The floor in this wooden shop bounces anyway, and tends to give me some vibration. Okay, and I'm going to move the tool rest in, and I may go to a smaller, lighter tool. I may even switch over to my favorite tool, and I see that crack is in there too. I'm not happy about these cracks. I may go to my little 1/4 inch favorite little tool here and see if I can't get what I want. So right now I'm working on the shape, and if I go to the overhead, it looks kind of funny in the overhead, but you can see how we're starting to get the profile here, and it curves around, but we're still pretty solid. We're still solid in the middle here on the back side. Okay. I'm hitting my controller there. I've got to put my controller somewhere that I can still get to it. Alrighty. I'm liking the curve. I'm liking the curve. I'm wishing I was getting a better cut. I'm going to grumble at myself all day about this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over here real quick to the grinder and see if I can't fix this tool that I messed up. Real quick like now. I promise you I'm going to get a camera over the grinder over here before too terrible long. Now that it's actually on a stand and in a place that I think is going to be its home. And it's just off to the side here. It'll have an overhead shot coming at you real soon. Like I said, I kind of messed up the profile on this tool this morning. And my wheel's all out of whack on this bent mandrel, which isn't helping life any. Which I didn't know until just this morning, first thing. Alright, let's see if that works a little bit better. Let's see what happens. So I'm definitely staying out of the way, which makes it hard to see. I am staying out of the path. When I'm turning this piece, I'm still, just because this is so fragile and frail out here, I'm actually standing pretty much over here. And I'm kind of gazing into it just a little bit, but not getting super close to it. Okay. And that crack opened up some more, so we're going to stop and I'm going to throw a little more glue at that, and then we're going to turn this around and we're going to come to the back side. Okay, Jeff Peters, what do you know? You're on lunch break. Good deal. So how did for those of y'all, you know, I don't want to have like inside personal private jokes going. So Jeff was we text a lot back and forth, turning questions and all, and that's perfectly fine. I'm happy to answer questions for anybody. But I saw, Jeff, that you had mixed some, I want to say you said milk paint, but some kind of a paint with your resin. How'd that work out for you? Into epoxy, you mixed some type of another paint, not a tint, into your resin. I'm kind of curious about how that worked out. Thanks for the cool looking bowl comment. Yeah, it's taxing my skills on getting it smooth out here on these wings. But there's nothing that the 80 grit gouge can't fix, much as I hate to admit it. But these wings are tough. And this thing is pretty thin, so when I turn it around, it's going to get even thinner. It works okay, but it's more brittle. Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. So we're happy with that. We're going to let that sit. And now we're going to take it out of the chuck. Well, I'll put the chuck back on. And we're going to turn it around. Because now it'll be really thin, but we're going to make the inside, and we're going to carve this away, and this will create our feet, our 3 little feet for setting this guy on. And if I show you the top here, you'll see that there's, this is, these are the teeth marks from the chainsaw, teeth on the, the body of the chainsaw where the bar is. So there's some sanding that needs to be done on this piece, regardless. Oop, I'm not in my space there. I was outside my tenon gap. And we hope that it turns nice and true to the other side. The tenon looks to match up angle-wise pretty good, and it looks like it's seated pretty good. Because if we have it crooked and warped, we're gonna have thick and thin. Okay. If that flies off, it'll be like a ninja throwing star. Yeah, that's why I'm standing the hell out of the way. I'm not turning and standing right here. Because if it flew off, or even if it breaks one of these wings, which could easily, I mean, this grain is just really cool in here, especially some of this figure that you can't see now. But if this thing flies apart, nah, it's going to be a bad day. And we don't want that. We don't want that. And if I don't know if I can find it right off or not. If I could find my beading tool, it'd be cool to put a bead up on the top of this guy. Okay, so now we are going to, so right now the wings out here, the corners are about 3/8 of an inch thick. A skinny 3/8, all right? So they're going to get a little bit thinner as we go. I don't want to get them a whole lot thinner, but that's, it's going to happen to a degree. And then we're going to put more of the arc in here, and that's what's going to lift this whole guy up. All right, and then we'll turn it back around again once we get this bottom done. So let me go to that side shot for you, and let me get a quick sip of water here. Not sure how the time is doing. It is 12:22. Okay. So I got a little over half an hour. What do you guys think is me starting at 11 instead of 10? Getting out here to 11 to 1 instead of 10 to 12. With it being dark earlier and all that now, it sure makes a lot of things easier for me. And I was hoping that maybe makes it easier on everybody else too. Being able to catch up with me and join in. All right. Now, let's see what we can do. Not sure if the vibration will give me trouble or not. And I also have to keep in mind that we're making a bowl on the other side. So I have to leave the bowl bottom here as well. Okay. Now I don't have a choice. I have to, at some point, I have to start doing this. I have to lean over here and look at my profile on the bottom and on the top. I don't really want to stand there when I'm making my cuts, but I do have to kind of come and go on this. Okay. So I'm going to show you how, see, I'm still on the front camera, yeah. I'm going to come in here and just very gently pick that up. Trying to make sure that I'm not in the way in the event that something unfortunate were to happen. Okay, now I'm going to leave it on the front camera while I come this way, because I'm going to put my shoulder in the way over here. Okay. So I'll just stay here. And I'm working to clean this up as much as I can. I'm also hitting some tools there. Doesn't make life any easier. I'm kind of feathering that cut in. I'll change over real quick here to the end camera. You can see that cleaned up quite a bit. As I came across there, I do have a little bit of a mark right in there. So I come back in here now and I look about this bowl and I think about, how can I explain this? So here, I'm going to put my hand over here on this side and I'm going to put my finger here. So I'm just doing the visual. So that's where the outside edge of my bowl is, right? Which tells me that from basically right in here, I can actually come in here and take out a little more wood. Okay, not a lot. To make the bottom of our bowl. And this is why we've got two tenons. We're going to go back and forth on this bowl body. The shape of the bowl in here. I'm probably getting my shoulder in the way in my head, but I'm trying not to. Alright, and I'm going to come in here and make a little change in this profile right in through here. Very slight change. That way I blend this together. Okay. Now, I get a cleaner cut with the high-speed steel tools, but from a shaping standpoint or a sculpting standpoint, if I were to be using, and what am I turning, 1100, okay. If I use the round style carbide cutters, what I'm doing right now, the sculpting would be easier, but I'm not going to get as clean a cut. It's just a fact. Okay. But I want to show you because not everybody has one or the other. That's why I like to do these demonstrations with both styles of tools, because some people have one, some people have the other, some people have both, and you should always check your tool rest before you turn the piece on. Do as I say, not as I do. Okay. Make sure I'm still back up at center. Okay. And that's my bowl there. I can get another kind of look at it. All right. So from a purely sculpting standpoint, it's much easier to get nice arcs with this style tool. But you can see it does lift the grain up a little bit. And so this is getting, it's fairly thin out there and wobbly. Okay. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go back to the overhead because I'm going to stick my shoulder in the way. And I'm going to clean this up with a little 1/4 inch gouge. With a very short profile, kind of traditional style profile. Right here at the transition is kind of bumpy, bumpier than the rest of it. And I'll switch you back over to the end now that I'm out here. And I'm kind of working on this transfer area right in here. And I'm basically making this uniform, the wall thickness uniform right now, looking over the top. Let's see what that looks like out there. Okay, it's not the best work, but that's easily taken care of. And now I'll come back inside here and blend this line away. So yes, I got, but you know, this is flexing pretty good out here. So it's pretty tough, at least for me these days, to get that to cut clean. That's not an excuse, that's a fact. So I'll blend this big line away. Art Miller likes the early start. Michael likes the later start, especially for the West Coasters. I thought that would be the case. Jeff says he likes the later start. So again, this is that little traditional grind. And I'm just going to come over here and try and blend that line away. So we actually have a turn going on here. It's coming in and then going back up the ramp of the bottom of the bowl that's going that way. So there's kind of actually a lot going on for what seems like a simple little piece. And it looks like I still got enough material in here. Just a little bit of a line there still. That actually kind of just lifted up right there. Again, I'm not going to even make any excuses about the wings out here, as flexible as that is, and I'm going to leave that be. I could sit there and fool with it. I know that I can sand it off in 30 seconds, so I'm not going to worry with it. Okay. What are my thoughts on using a high-speed steel scraper on the final pass to clean up tool marks? You can. My concern, and I've got one sitting right there, which I didn't sharpen, but my concern is that I might flex this because it's an even bigger piece of steel. If you'd like to see me use the scraper, I don't have a negative rake here. I've got just a standard one. I'll come across here and we'll see what happens. I mean, it's just a piece of wood. I don't mind doing it at all. I'm thinking that it's also, what it is going to do, especially because it's not a negative rake, it's going to lift that grain up a little bit, but it might smooth it out. So hey, I'm game. We'll go back to the end camera and we'll grab a scraper on here and we'll see what happens. Again, it's not a negative rake. I'll lift it up. Let me freshen it up. I had a negative rake, Jeff, and you know those woodworking show things that I do? I think somebody carried it home one day from a show, walked off with a $180 tool, which is unfortunate, but it happens. This is just a standard Carter & Son bowl scraper. It's unfortunate how much product disappears, unfortunately, out there on the road. I am on the end camera. Yeah, I'm on the end camera. It's pretty dicey out here. It's a lot of tool to be trying to finesse through there. I mean, it cleans up. It made that transition cleaner. Though you can see how it lifted the grain, or at least I can see it from here. And I'll go out there. I hope I don't break her. Nice light pass. So it did clean it up some, but it's pretty risky. Because like I say, that flex is pretty good now. But I'll try anything for you guys. Hey, I'm not scared. It's a piece of wood. I've broken lots of pieces of wood before, and I'll break a lot more before I'm all done with this fun hobby. Okay. Let's see. I think we are ready to turn. I would sand. I wouldn't sand this just yet because I'm going to go back and forth a little bit more. But let's go ahead and turn this around and do our bowl section on the inside here now. And as I get 12:38, watching the time. Now, if I was Jimmy, Mr. Clues, I would turn this up to 3,000 RPM and just let her wing. And he wouldn't have any tool marks and all that good stuff. Jimmy's amazing. That's what I first, when I first started turning, I studied Jimmy all the time, his videos, and would go see him when I couldn't, and I still do. I really like his style. I like the way he works. Okay, one more crank of this. And let's make one more pass out here to try and clean up the wings, and then we'll make our little bowl depression here in the center. So let's go to end camera for you guys. I think I can do this without getting my shoulder in the way. One of the hazards of turning it back and forth is that if it doesn't line up exactly, then it's not true and you end up cutting more wood away than you want to. Looks like I'm getting my mask in there a little bit, trying not to get myself in the way. One thing that I've got to change here, and I don't think you can see it in any of the cameras, is right over here is a maple butcher block tabletop. It's got where I got my tools, and I'm looking at this cut line. So I'm watching that cut line on this side, but I'm looking at it against the same color as the wood. So it's really hard for me to see the contrast and see what's going on. Okay, so that really, like if I would put, I think I got some right here, some mats. I had them somewhere to go in these drawers. So if I put something black there, if I had a piece of black poster board or anything to give myself a different color out here so that I can get some contrast. No, don't let me forget that I got tools under there. It'll make it a lot easier for me to see. So you can see where I'm at out here on this wing. And that cut wasn't too bad. And I'm headed out there for this corner, which is super all flexy. Okay. So while I'm cutting going this way, I'm watching over here because I can't see a thing on this side. And so that's the real trick, is to be able to watch the opposite side and have enough contrast to be able to see. And the cut has to be ultra light because this piece is, is getting quite flexible. This sycamore is not super strong. It tends to tear up the very ends because it's so thin now. So you have to be careful. So I'm getting a little bit of chipping right there. And so that's thin enough, especially, which one was it that was really wiggling? This one's really wiggling. So that I'll just have to sand out. I'll have to leave that be like that because of the flex. I love this grain. I could work up in here some more. I got a little bit of this, but I want to be really careful as I head out through here that I don't cut myself into a corner just to get rid of a tool mark. But I don't mind putting a little more profile in here. Maybe we'll make that a feature. Let's see if we can make that a feature since I did that. Yeah, let's see what we can't do with this. There's enough wood here. So let's have a little fun now that we're at that point. We're going to take a detail tool. Got plenty of material. All right, so that transition, I can do anything I want to now. That tear out there we'll have to clean up. So I can do anything I want to in this section now. I can curve this as much as I want because I still have plenty of wood. All right, I did mess that up with that a little bit. So now I got to fix that. But we'll fix this here real quick. Okay. Ow, don't do that. Took care of the tear out, took care of my finger too. So we made that little highlight of a ring there. That's that carbide tool that does, you don't get. Another thing I could do would be to use a parting tool. And I've got a 16th inch parting tool, which I'm going to stick over here on the grinder real quick. Just to clean it up. And I don't even turn the grinder on. I just turn it by hand. And use the radius of the wheel. A little bit more there. Okay, and we can do the same thing with a parting tool. We might get a little bit cleaner cut right here. So if we wanted to do an inlay right in here, you know, talking about doing some decorative work, we could make this, you know, as wide or as narrow as we want. I'm going to see if I can't clean that edge up a little bit more. So that's a much cleaner cut right there. You could do a little bead. You could even just do a CA glue black line right there. That would be fun. Okay, and we have a double profile here if we want. We can have this roll down to that line, and then we have our bowl go in. Okay, so let's see here. Let me take my little, I want to put a little more profile in just because I'm having fun. And we're just going to make this swoop around. Okay, so we've got another little profile right there. All right, and then now we can take this away. Raise that up just a tick. All right, cool beans, cool beans. Let's get rid of that tenon. We are done in here with that. Let's make this a bowl. I'm moving kind of fast because I'm starting to run out of, time's getting late. I don't really ever run out of time. I just get hungry. So what I'm doing is I'm just kind of looking back over the top, and I'll leave it run. And I'm looking at this thickness right in here for my bowl, the bottom of my bowl, the wall of my bowl. Again, if I don't have standard conventional tools and I wanted to use a carbide tool, now I waited to do all this work because as I take this mass out, this is going to move even more out here, and it's already flexible and jumpy around enough as it is. So if you're in a carbide world, super easy to work with here. Or your bowl gouge. Let's see how we're doing on thickness. So I've got some calipers hanging around here somewhere. You know, we're still got plenty of material right in here. That's not an issue at all. The other issue that I haven't even checked yet is that I need to make sure, now that I've taken it away, and it is, that my bottom of my bowl is not, go up here, I need to make sure the bottom of my bowl is not sticking out further than my wings here, okay? It might be kind of close, but when we turn it around to take the tenon off the bottom, so let's see what we got here. As long as it doesn't touch, life is good. And that, so I see, I'm just looking down in there and I see daylight, so that's not going, the bottom of the bowl isn't going to touch. It'll just be hanging off of the bottom. Those little details will come back and bite you sometimes if you're not careful. All right, so these cracks have opened up some more in here. Go back over here, you can see these cracks have opened up that's in the wood, so that's making things move around some. Okay, so we'll take a little bit more out of the middle of this bowl, or bowl shape. You might have noticed I grabbed that little teeny traditional grind again to sweep across the bottom here. And that'll work for today for that. So we could do color in here, and we could do a fill in here. We could do a color. I got a little funky transition right there I need to fix, don't I? Don't walk away from it before it's done, Bradley. There we go. I mean, you could have sanded that, blended that in with the sandpaper. But so we've got a groove. Goes down a little bit, comes back up, rolls around. We got our little bowl here. We don't have a lot of material left to work with in the bottom, and I like to leave a little extra. I like to make sure that I've got enough down in there. Again, now at this point, I don't want to fill these cracks, and I'm looking for. I knew I had to cover things up because the CA glue now is going to affect whatever I might do with the finish. And so I don't want to go and fill this crack that's right in here now. All right. I want to put some kind of a finish on this first before I did anything with that crack. I love the grain in this wood, especially this end. I know it's kind of hard to see. It's pretty cool. The ambrosia streak running through it is really nice. So we've got some profiles here. Now to take the tenon off, I'll put if I have a chunk of wood here, I'll make something, and I'll just, not a jam chuck, I'll just reverse chuck it and take the tenon off. Normally I would leave it on and like say sand the bowl piece and sand this. This is all going to have to be sanded, where am I at? Overhead. This is all going to have to be sanded manually without it turning anyway. So I'm not too worried about that. So let's get this guy where we can take the tenon off and clean up the bottom. And we'll wrap this up. How's my time? Time say 12:54, just about right on time. Okay, so do we have any scraps hanging around? Let me give you an overhead shot while I look for something to throw in here to use for this. Any kind of questions, guys? Am I going to dye it? Jeff, I don't have a clue what I'm going to do with it. I have no idea what I'm going to do with it. Probably put it in the box with the hundreds of others that are at this stage of not being finished. Let's see, what do we got around here that'll work? Since everything is upside down in here. Let's see. You know, I got an idea. That one's too big. Something I haven't tried. I usually turn a piece of wood into to match, but I've thrown all my scrap stuff away. Maybe I'll use this rubber chucky. You want friction? Friction is all we want is surface friction. I think that holds that, yeah. right in here. And usually I will carve a piece that goes in, has a tenon on it, a piece of scrap wood that matches this curve, okay? But I'm in a hurry, and I don't have any scraps like that hanging around. So we line that up with where we were before, and I give you the end shot so you can see we have our center from where we were before. All right. Get everything out of the way. And we just need this to turn pretty close to true, and all we want is enough pressure that it won't spin like that from the force of the tool. So a little more pressure, and that's why the larger the surface area over here, the more resistance and friction you get, okay? Bring this around. I hope you guys have enjoyed this today. I've had a lot of fun. How come there's more margin on the bottom? You mean this flat section, Art? Is that what you're referring to? Is that what you're referring to as the margin? Because I left a shoulder. If that is, that's because I left a shoulder for the jaws, and we're gonna radius this off now. We're gonna take care of that. We're gonna take and get rid of some of that. All right. But first, we're gonna turn away the bulk of this tenon, and I could use carbide. I can use bowl gouge. I'll use my little 1/4-inch bowl gouge here. Turn it by hand because now it's super fragile. Make sure it's not hitting anywhere. On the short side of the triangle. Art says more margin on the short side of the triangle. I mean, if you're talking about right there, trying to come up with what you're referring to as margin, Art. Remember, this thing is not equal-sided. One thing you want to be really careful with is, and I'm going to show you this in the overhead especially, makes the most. So I'm working here, here's my hand laying up against the tool rest. And just on the other side of that tool rest, right there where my tool is that really sharp corner, 3 corners of the wood. Okay? And if you let your hand, and I've done it too many times, drift over that, it's going to eat you up. So you want to be really careful of that. So as long as your wood is strong, we can take this down to a pretty small little cone here. Now I'm going to stop and check my thickness in through here. Optimally, I would have it be an exact match, but I see this crack right here. This, I don't know if you can see it in the camera or not. So this crack is on the other side. This, as I take more and more of this wood away, this crack opens up. So I'm going to be real careful. I'm not going to push this very far on taking that out. That's what it is, Art. It's an illusion. I am an illusionist. And you could spend a lot of time fooling with this if you wanted to in here. It's not turning exactly true now. You can hear it bounce right in there. And it's a little bit harder to get in there with the, to go downhill. But you can take some extra wood away. If you're so inclined. You know, however small you want this to be. And so I'm kind of out of time. And if I was using carbide, I would just shape it. Like so. And then for the last little bit, you could, well, there's not a whole lot left in here. You could spend some time and take a little bit more of that out and hoop and jupe it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take and cut a little cove, or a little point right here. Little cone, not a cove, but a cone. I do this all the time. And again, it all depends on the strength of the wood. If this piece flies off and hits me, if this little cone breaks, and you can see it, sort of it, you're in the overhead now, I'll put you on the end, so you can see how I'm coming in here. I'm trying to clean this up on the bottom as well. I could actually come in there with a bowl gouge better. Get right up in there. Come back to my little pointy tool, my little detail tool. And the smaller you make this, the less work you have to do to sand it away, but the greater risk you run of having it break just before you finish. Okay? And since I just spent 2 hours turning this, I think I'm going to stop right there with that. And it's about the size of a pencil. If it wasn't such a goofy piece, I would have gone a little smaller, but chance of breaking that is actually pretty good. So let's see, which camera we're on. We're on the overhead camera. So you can see there's just a little cone down in there, and if I go to the end camera, you can see it's just down to a little teeny cone. Okay. So I just would find the way the grain is running in this, which is kind of squirrely looking at the moment. And I would take a chisel and just cut that off. I did see a chisel recently somewhere. Can't remember where now, because I've turned everything around in here. It might be hiding down in here for once. Chisel to me is the easiest way. If you try and use a flat saw or Japanese saw, anything like that, you run the risk of marring it up somewhere else. Now this one, like I say, that's the way the grain is running, so maybe I go like this. And I actually saw my mallet in one of these drawers. Can't wait till I'm all organized up again with all my toolbox and everything. I'll be styling. Well, don't know where the mallet went, so we'll just use something else. We'll just use another chisel. And you just cut that guy right off of there. And we'd sand that up, so you can see it's just a little teeny nub right there. And that is our crazy little, or big, isosceles triangle based. Like I say, it needs a little cleaning up and sanding and whatnot. But it's pretty cool. I don't know if I've got a surface flat enough for it to sit on for you. I do have a surface big enough. I don't know if you can see it without me changing the camera. What have I got here that might be that big? This thing's pretty good size. Nothing. I don't think you'll be able to see it on this table. But maybe. No, it's down too far. Down too far. You get the idea. So pretend that that's sitting on a table. It would sit on here. All my arms will be the table. You get the idea. So it's pretty fun, pretty cool. Got just a nice big arc to it. Again, if you came in later, in the very beginning of the video, look at the comments. I put a link to just a little simple little math page. It's got the geometry on how to figure out the center of different shapes of triangles, and whether you want the center mass or the center of the outer circle, center of the inner circle. Because if you have an isosceles triangle, you can have the outer circle is different than the inner circle. So you can calculate those and figure them out. It's a lot of fun. I think, I really want to try making one that's really tapered. It's going to be super fragile because it's just not much wood there. I mean, this thing, I'm not trying to claim that it's ultra thin like a hat, but there's also no support. So they're pretty challenging. So I say it's not for the faint of heart, but really fun. I had a good time. And don't hit me. I hope you guys did too. I'm looking down. Thank you, Michael. I'm losing my voice. I got to go to a Mexican restaurant. Thank you, Lan. Thank you, Art. Thank you, everybody who came by today. I really appreciate everybody hanging out with me on Monday Methods. This is my fun time to get out here and teach you every week something, show you what I know how to do. I'm always trying new things, or almost always. I do not mind breaking things. That's how we learn. Take chances safely. Notice I didn't do anything, in my opinion, that was unsafe. Always had the face mask on, always stayed out of the way. I will continue to improve on the studio. Over time, it's just, it's night and day from when I started just a little over a year ago doing these. I'm having a ball. And also going to be doing more of the sales specials, working through that. Did that after the Woodturners Worldwide Symposium. I did one here where you log in through a Zoom style, and we can actually talk back and forth. So lots of things coming from Spiralcraft. God knows if we're going on the road or not with the woodworking shows. We hope so, but there's no telling. So everybody, thank you very much. Let's see. Somebody just jumped in here late. David, just go back. You can watch this on Facebook, or if you'll go watch it on YouTube, it'll be a 1080p. Facebook will archive it at 720, so it'll be a better look on YouTube. But I appreciate you jumping in, David, and come back next week. Maria, thank you. I never know who all's hiding out there. I had fun today, and 11 to 1 seems like it works well for folks. And I'm going to go get something to wash down and keep my voice before I lose it. Everybody have a safe week. Eek! I got nothing left in my voice. Have a safe week. Be careful out there. And I'm going to put all this stuff on the table and go to an overhead shot because I have to go in to stop the stream. I've lost all my voice. So there's our little piece. Thank you, everybody, again. I appreciate it very much. Have a great day. There's a shot of the piece, and I will see you in a week.